What if I told you one of the most powerful voices in American history was once considered illegal to educate? Not because he lacked intelligence, but because knowledge would make him dangerous. Today's episode of Let's Talk Black History, we're talking about the honorable, the legendary, the spectacular Frederick Douglass, a man who turned oppression into power and changed history forever. Frederick Douglass was born into slavery around 1818 in Maryland. And like many enslaved people, he didn't even know exactly when he was born. He didn't know his exact birthday. Imagine that. Not even knowing when you were born to the date. He was separated from his mother as a baby, which that is something that was very common during slavery and actually pretty common today. Families were broken on purpose. See, this was to control people's emotional state. From that start, his life was designed to be limited. But what made Douglass different was his level of curiosity, his level of intelligence. Douglass was sent to Baltimore, where he lived with a slaveholder's family. Uh, a first, excuse me, at first, I said a first. At first, the slaveholder's wife began teaching him the alphabet. But when her husband found out, he shut it down immediately. And I do mean immediately. And this is where everything changed like that. He said something that stuck with Douglass forever. This is what stuck with Mr. Frederick. If you teach a slave to read, he will no longer be fit to be a slave. If you teach a slave to read, he will no longer be fit to be a slave. That moment flipped a switch. Douglass realized something powerful within those words. Education was the pathway to freedom. So what did he do? He taught himself. He traded bread with poor white children in exchange for reading. He traded bread with poor white children in exchange for reading lessons. He studied anything he could get his hands on. Every word he learned was a step closer to freedom. Douglass didn't just face physical slavery. He faced brutal conditions. He was beaten, controlled, dehumanized. But mentally, he was breaking free. At the age of 20, so that's roughly 1838, he made his move. He escaped slavery by disguising himself as a traveling north, or excuse me, as traveling. I said as traveling and traveling north. Today my brain is everywhere. I'm sorry, y'all. But he disguised himself and he was traveling north. And just like that, he went from being someone's property to becoming a free man. But he didn't stop there, though. See, Mr. Douglass, Frederick Douglass, became one of the most powerful speakers in the abolitionist movement. And I'm surprised I remembered how to say that word properly. See, his words were sharp, honest, unfiltered. He didn't just tell people slavery was wrong, he made them feel it. He wrote his famous autobiography. It was called Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. And it exposed the truth about slavery in a way the world couldn't ignore. He went from being silenced to shaking entire rooms with his voice. Mr. Douglass didn't just fight for the end of slavery. He fought for equality. He fought for voting rights. He fought for dignity. He even advised presidents like Abraham Lincoln. Now let that sink in. Just let that sink in. A man who was once enslaved ended up influencing the highest office in the country. Now that's power. Frederick Douglass, Mr. Douglass, proved something that still applies today. They can control your body, but your mind, that's yours. So the question is, what are you doing with what you have access to? Fun fact, I went to Frederick Douglass Elementary School here in Kansas, by the way. Now, this is Let's Talk Black History with Tay Nicole. Make sure you guys do me a favor, and that's like, comment, and share and subscribe if you haven't already, because these are the stories that need to be heard. I know a lot of you probably heard about Frederick Douglass, but maybe not into that depth of a story. So share this with somebody else so they can learn even more. And come back next week for more Black history. Now, as always, stay peaceful, stay blessed, and let's stay black, baby. Peace out.